Hi friends, welcome to Career Tech channel. ECE Common Syllabus Preparation Video Series Communication System Part 4 வீடியோல Linear Modulation Scheme பத்தி நம்ம டீடைலா பார்க்கலாம். Linear Modulation Scheme நம்ம எப்படி obtain பண்றோம்னா amplitude modulationல certain trade-offs கொண்டு வந்து we are going to obtain the Linear Modulation Scheme. Amplitude modulation is also called as DSB-FC or DSB, that is double sideband full carrier or double sideband, because we are using both the sidebands and also the carrier signal fully without suppressing it. So this is why the reason the amplitude modulation is also called as DSB-FC. Before moving on to the linear modulation scheme, we have to be familiar with the disadvantages of amplitude modulation. The first disadvantage is the wasteful of power, because we know that C of t, that is the carrier signal, is independent of the information bearing signal. So this C of t represents the wasteful of power. Next, the second disadvantage of AM is the wasteful of bandwidth. In AM modulation, it is going to transmit both upper and lower sideband signal. But in both, the M of t is transmitted. So twice the time the bandwidth is used for the M of t. So this is why it is considered to be one of the disadvantage of amplitude modulation. In order to overcome this disadvantage, we are moving on to the linear modulation scheme. In order to overcome those disadvantages, we are moving on to the linear modulation schemes, where the common in all the three types of linear modulation scheme is the suppressed carrier. The three types of linear modulation scheme are DSP-SC, SSB or SSB-SC and VSB. Its abbreviations full form are DSP-SC stand for double sideband suppressed carrier and SSB stands for single sideband or single sideband suppressed carrier. Then VSB stands for vestigial sideband. In all the three cases, the common factor is the suppressed carrier. We are going to suppress the carrier in order to avoid the disadvantages of AM signal. Now moving on to the basic definitions of the types. DSB-SC, double sideband suppressed carrier. It is going to transmit only the two sidebands of the signal, that is the upper and lower sidebands of the signal. When moving on to SSB-SC, it is going to transmit only one sideband of the signal, that is either upper sideband or lower sideband. When it comes to VSB, that is vestigial sideband, it is a halfway between the DSB and SSB, because it is going to transmit one sideband fully and a part or vestige of another sideband. For more clarity, taking example, first we are going to transmit USB fully and a vestige of LSB, or going to transmit LSB fully and a part of USB. This is how VSB works. So these are the three basic types of linear modulation scheme. When moving on to the bandwidth requirement of all the modulation schemes, the amplitude modulation requires the bandwidth of 2 FM, because it is also going to transmit both the sidebands. But the difference between the DSP-SC and AMR, here we are not going to suppress the carrier, but in DSP-SC we are going to suppress the carrier. So that's why the bandwidth requirement are same 2 FM, 2 FM. When it comes to SSB or SSB-SC, we are just going to transmit the USB or LSB. So the bandwidth requirement is FM. When it comes to VSB, we are going to transmit one sideband and other sidebands a part of it. So that's why FM plus del. So these are the bandwidth requirements of the modulation schemes. Now moving on to the comparisons between amplitude modulation, DSP-SC, SSB and VSB. As previously mentioned, amplitude modulation is also called as double sideband full carrier. So taking carrier as a first feature, in DSP-FC the carrier is fully present. In DSP-SC and SSB the carrier is fully suppressed. And in VSB the carrier is partially suppressed. As mentioned before, the VSB is a compromise between DSP-SC and SSB. Then moving on to the bandwidth requirement of DSP-FC and DSP-SC are same, that is 2FM, because both are going to transmit both the upper and lower sidebands of the signal. When considering SSB, either of the sidebands is transmitted, either LSB or USB, so the bandwidth requirement is FM. When considering VSB, bandwidth requirement is slightly more than FM, that is FM plus del. The del will be for the vestige part of the other sideband. Then considering the power efficiency. In DSP-FC it is low, for DSP-SC it is moderate, and for SSB it is high, and for VSB it is also moderate. Taking complexity, it is low complex comparatively to the linear modulation schemes. For DSP-SC it is moderate, and for SSB it is high, and for VSB it is moderate. When moving on to the applications, DSP-FC is used for AM broadcasting, and for SSB-SC it is used for TV transmission, and for SSB it is used for long distance communication. When considering the VSB, it is used for TV transmission. Then moving on to the noise immunity. AM modulation have very poor noise immunity comparative to the other linear modulation schemes. In DSP-SC it is moderate, and for SSB it is high, and for VSB it is moderate. Then synchronization part, the amplitude modulation doesn't need any synchronization, but for DSP, SC, SSB and VSB it is required. And considering the redundancy, DSP-FC has high and DSP-SC have moderate and SSB have low and VSB have moderate. These are the major comparisons existing between the amplitude modulation, DSP-SC, SSB and VSB. Overall summary பார்த்துடலாம். ஸோ இந்த வீடியோவில் லீனியர் மாடுலேஷன் ஸ்கீம் பற்றி டீட்டெயிலாக பார்த்துருந்தோம். அதோட டைப்ஸ் DSP-SC, SSB and VSB பார்த்துருந்தோம். அண்ட் டிஸ்அட்வான்டேஜஸ் ஆஃப் ஆம்ப்ளிடியூட் மாடுலேஷன் பார்த்துருந்தோம். DSP-SC is going to transmit both upper and lower sidebands, and SSB-SC is going to transmit either of the sidebands, and VSB is going to transmit one sideband fully and a part or vestige of the other sideband. And bandwidth requirements of AM modulation, DSP-SC, SSB and VSB பார்த்திருந்தோம். And these are the things which is being covered in the video. இதே மாதிரி வேற காம்படிட்டிவ் எக்ஸாம்ஸ்க்கான ஸ்பெசிஃபிக் டாபிக்ஸ் ஆர் கான்செப்ட்ஸ் வேணும்னா நம்ம கமெண்ட் பாக்ஸில் கமெண்ட் பண்ணுங்க. ஃபார் ஃபர்தர் அப்டேட்ஸ் கேரியர் டேக் சேனலை சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணிக்கோங்க. தேங்க்யூ.